The river wound through the Wyoming Valley like a ribbon of molten silver, its surface catching the late August sun in fleeting glints of amber and gold. Clara Hammond knelt on its muddy bank, her fingers buried in the cool, damp earth, as if she could claw her way back to a time when the world made sense. Her sobs came in waves, soft but relentless, each one swallowed by the river's gentle current. The willows along the water's edge drooped low, their leaves trailing in the flow, as if they, too, grieved with her. Clara's tears mingled with the river, invisible but heavy, carrying the weight of a life unraveling. Her father gone 3 months now, the ranch teetering on the brink of collapse, and the future looming like a storm she couldn't outrun. At 24, she felt both ancient and fragile, a woman adrift in a world that had once felt like home. The air was thick with the scent of sagebrush and dust, the kind that clung to the plains after a summer of unrelenting heat. Clara's hands, streaked with mud, trembled as she pressed them deeper into the ground, seeking something solid to hold onto. The ranch, her family's legacy for 3 generations, was slipping through her fingers. Debts had piled up like dry tinder, sparked by 2 years of drought and a market that seemed to turn against them at every step. Her father, Amos Hammond, had been the heart of this place, his booming laugh and unshakable grit the glue that held the land and its people together. He taught her to ride before she could walk, to mend fences in a hailstorm, to love the land even when it broke your heart. But now he was gone. A heart attack in the barn, found too late by one of the hands, and Clara was left to carry a burden she wasn't sure she could bear. The crunch of gravel behind her was faint but unmistakable, a steady rhythm she'd known since childhood. She didn't turn, didn't need to. Levi Grayson, the cowboy who'd worked the Hammond ranch since Clara was a girl chasing fireflies in the pastures, stood a few paces off. His shadow stretched long across the riverbank, mingling with hers in the water's rippling reflection. He didn't speak at first, and the silence between them was filled only by the river's soft murmur and the distant cry of a meadowlark perched in the cottonwoods. Clara wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing mud across her cheek, and kept her gaze fixed on the water. She didn't want him to see her like this, a broken, raw, a shadow of the girl who used to race him to the barn and Rena. But there was no hiding from Levi. He saw everything, always had, with those storm-gray eyes that seemed to look straight through to the truth. "Clara," he said finally, his voice low and rough, like the wind scouring the plains. "Ain't right, seeing you like this." She swallowed hard, her throat tight with the effort to hold back another wave of tears. "What's right anymore, Levi?" she said, her voice cracking like dry wood. "The ranch is dying. The bank's got us by the throat. I can't keep it together, not like Pa did. I'm not him." Her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of her failure. She'd spent her life trying to live up to her father's legacy, but now, with the pastures parched and the cattle sold off to cover last year's losses, she felt like she was betraying him with every step she took. Levi stepped closer, his boots sinking into the soft earth as he crouched beside her. He was close enough now that she could smell the familiar scent of leather and sweat, the honest tang of a man who lived by his hands and the land. His hat, weathered and stained from years under the sun, cast a shadow over his face, but his eyes found hers, steady and unyielding. They held no pity, only a quiet strength that made her want to look away and lean closer all at once. He rested his hands on his knees, his fingers calloused and scarred from years of roping cattle and mending what was broken. Those hands had rebuilt the barn after the fire of 19, had pulled calves from their mothers in the dead of winter, had carried the weight of the ranch when Amos's strength began to fade. Now, they seemed to wait, poised for something Clara couldn't name. "Rivers don't stop flowing just cause the rain quits," Levi said, his gaze drifting to the water. "They find a way through the rocks, the mud, whatever's in their path. They keep going, Clara, cause that's what they do. You're like that. You've got that same kind of stubborn in you. Always have." She shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping her lips, sharp and jagged. "Stubborn? I'm crying like a damn child, Levi. This river's seen more of my tears than my laughter these days. I'm not strong, I'm just a broken bar lost." Her voice broke on the last word, and she pressed her lips together, willing herself not to crumble further. She hated this weakness, hated that he was seeing it, But there was no hiding from the man who'd watched her grow from a scrappy kid to the woman now drowning in her own despair. Levi had been there for every skinned knee, every triumph, every moment she thought she couldn't go and act quiet, steady, a constant she'd taken for granted until now. He reached out, slow and deliberate, his calloused hand closing over hers. The warmth of his touch startled her, grounding her in a way she hadn't felt since her father's death. It wasn't the casual pat on the shoulder he'd given her as a girl or the quick hand to help her up from a fall. This was different and intentional, like he was trying to pull her back from the edge of a cliff she hadn't realized she was standing on. Her breath caught, and for a moment, the river, the willows, the weight of the world faded, leaving only the warmth of his hand and the steady rhythm of his breathing. She looked down at their hands, hers small and trembling, his large and weathered, and felt a flicker of something she couldn't name, a hope, maybe, or something deeper, something that scared her as much as it comforted her. "I remember you down here," Levi said, his voice softening, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. 10 years old, maybe 11, running through these willows, chasing frags like they were gold. You'd laugh so loud it'd echo clear across the valley, scare the fish right out of the water. Your pa used to say you'd wake the whole damn county with that laugh. His eyes held hers, and there was something in a warmth, a memory, a promise that made her chest ache with a different kind of pain, one that wasn't all grief. "You filled this place with joy then, Clara. Ain't no reason you can't do it again." Her throat tightened, and she looked away, back to the river, its surface now catching the first hints of twilight. The memory felt like a dream, a different Clara in a different world. "That was before," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Before the drought killed half the pastures, before the bank started sending letters that read like threats, before Pa broken bar she couldn't finish," the words choking her like dust. Her father's death had been sudden, a heart attack in the barn one cold morning, his body found by old Tom, the foreman, hours too late. The ranch had been Amos's dream, his life, and now it was Clara's to carry, whether she was ready or not. She wasn't. She knew it in her bones, in the way her hands shook when she read the bank's latest demand, in the way the land itself seemed to turn against her. Levi's grip on her hand tightened, not hard, but firm, like he was anchoring her to the earth. "Before don't matter," he said, his voice steady as the river's flow. "What matters is now, and I'm telling you, Clara, we'll fill this river with laughter again. You and me. We'll fix the fences, round up what cattle we've got left, figure out the bank. We'll bring the life back to this place. I ain't going nowhere." The words settled over her like a warm blanket, heavy with promise, and for the first time in months, a flicker of hope stirred in her chest. It was fragile, like a new blade of grass pushing through cracked earth, but it was there. She looked at him, really looked, and saw the man who'd always been very quiet, steady, the one who'd mend fences in a hailstorm and never complain, who'd ride out at dawn to check the herd and come back with a nod and a job done. Levi wasn't family, not by blood, but he was part of the ranch, part of her life, in a way she'd never fully acknowledged until this moment. His promise wasn't loud or grand, but it carried the weight of truth, the kind that came from a man who didn't make vows lightly. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely audible, the question slipping out before she could stop it. "Why stay, Levi? You could go anywhere, work any ranch in the state. You don't owe me this. You don't owe Pa anything anymore." His eyes softened, and for a moment, she thought she saw something deeper there, something unspoken that made her heart stutter. But he only said, "This place is home, Clara. Your pa gave me that when I had nothing and no family, no place to call my own. He took me in, gave me work, gave me purpose." "And you a broken bar?" He paused, his jaw tightening as if weighing his words, choosing them with care. "You're worth staying for." Her breath caught, and she didn't know what to say, didn't know how to untangle the sudden warmth in her chest from the grief that still clung to her like damp earth. She leaned into him, her head resting against his shoulder, the rough fabric of his vest against her cheek. His arm settled around her, solid and sure, and for the first time in months, she felt like she wasn't facing the world alone. The river kept flowing, its song unchanged, but now it felt less like a witness to her grief and more like a partner in what was to come, a quiet promise of its own. "We'll start tomorrow," Levi murmured, his breath stirring her hair. "Fix what's broken, start small. We'll figure it out, step by step. But tonight, just let the river hold you. I've got the rest." The stars began to prick the darkening sky, one by one, their light dancing on the water's surface like scattered diamonds. Clara closed her eyes, the sound of the river and Levi's steady heartbeat blending into one. Somewhere deep within her, a faint echo of laughter stirred, fragile but real, waiting for the day it would rise again. For now, it was enough to be held, to believe, even just a little, that the river might one day carry joy instead of tears.